there's a Fallout game that is considered by many to be one of the worst games of all time. But calling it bad is an insult to games that are truly awful, like Hotel Mario or Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 5. Can you beat Fallout Brotherhood of Steel without wanting to die? The opening cinematic, aside from the metal music playing in place of the 1950s music the franchise is known for, actually does a pretty solid job of setting the stage for a Fallout game. Then come the decisions, which difficulty to play on and which character to play as. I chose the easiest option to wake up from this nightmare as quickly as possible, and went with Cyrus as my character because he seemed like the one who would be able to take the most damage. The backstory is vague at best. You're a Brotherhood Initiate who's looking for missing Paladins, and that's it. It was abundantly clear what audience this game was catering to when the leader of the Raiders was a woman in heels wearing next to nothing and dual-wielding pistols. After talking to a nearby entertainer and asking her about men in big metal armor, I went inside a bar to investigate. Here, I got into combat for the first time. There's actually a lot of thought that goes into combat. You can punch people, or you can punch people. Yeah, that's about it. You literally have one form of attack, the X button. There's no block, no light attack, no heavy attack, just attack. You have a chance at landing a critical shot that does more damage, and you can use different weapons, but that's it. Brotherhood of Steel is a 15-year-old game, but come on, this is garbage by any standard. Once the Raiders were defeated, I informed Armpit, and he told me to talk to the mayor. I also leveled up. Believe it or not, there is some customization available in this game. There are skills that are admittedly pretty generic across the board, but it's better than nothing. What's truly incredible is that this game has more armor customization than Fallout 3. The slots are head, body, gloves, and boots. In Fallout 3, you've got body armor, headwear, and glasses. I also found out, before leaving the bar, that I did have 2 weapons available from the start, iron gloves and a homemade pistol. Jesse, the one-armed merchants, got melee weapons, firearms, and armor for sale. It took me a while to find Richard and saw that the game really takes advantage of its M rating. To get information from Richard, I would have to go and clear out a warehouse for him on the other side of town. Inside the warehouse are 25 rad scorpions to destroy. I tried using my pistol on them, but it really sucks. The damage is ridiculously low, and unless you're locked onto a single target, you have next to no chance of hitting anything. I fought my way through some of the rad scorpions, picked up some of their tails, punched a few giant rats to death, and the monotony of this game's combat really started to become apparent. There's also a whining dog that would not shut up. It was so frustrating. The other thing that's frustrating, because I'm a pussy that requires hand-holding, is that the game doesn't tell you where the enemies are. That's fine on its own. You explore a level and take out all the enemies you find, which became significantly easier once I found the spiked baseball bat. It becomes a problem when you get down to a few enemies left. You find out that there are 2 rad scorpions left, and you have no idea where they are. Your only option is to mindlessly run around the level until you find the 1 rad scorpion left. I'm not asking the game to tell you where every single rad scorpion is, but by the time you're down to the last few rad scorpions, you've done most of the work. Just mark them on the map. Then I entered the warehouse auxiliary storage, where there are 23 more rad scorpions to kill. I thought it was just the 25 in that one area. Nope. I'm gonna go ahead and spoil the surprise by telling you that there's a 3rd area with even more fucking scorpions. This game is just so unrelentingly horrible. See, what you're watching now is the core of the game. This is it. This is all there is. I spent close to an hour clearing out all the rad roaches, scorpions, whatever. Imagine you're a Fallout fan from the early 2000s. You rent this game from Blockbuster, and you spend an hour walking up to rad roaches and pressing X. The inherent problem is how dull combat is. You don't get new abilities as you level up and get deeper into the game. It's the same throughout the entire playthrough. When you're playing an action role-playing game, you expect the action to be fun, but it's not. At one point, I blew up a barrel just so there was something else to look at. Once most of the rad scorpions were dead, I backtracked through all 3 areas, clearing out the occasional rat as I came across it, until I returned to the entrance, where a giant stone block that previously blocked off a new room has now been moved. Inside that room is a giant rad scorpion, the first boss. I love the text that appears just before you face the giant rad scorpion. But that's not enough to make this fight interesting. The first minute or two were spent blasting away at its claws, so I could do melee attacks without it blocking the damage. When that predictably didn't work at all, I spammed stim packs and used my combat knife to slice them into oblivion. I ran for a while, taking a shot or two before it caught up to me and did big damage. Then it dawned on me that I had enough stim packs to spare, that I could just stand in place and keep firing until it died. And there was still one rat scorpion left. Somewhere in one of the 3 areas I just spent 1 hour clearing out is a single remaining rat scorpion. This game, I hate it so much. God saw my struggles and helped me out. It took only 10 minutes to find that scorpion, and with the warehouse finally cleared out, I returned to the mayor. He pointed me towards the crater at the edge of town. I sold some gear to Jesse and entered the crater. The one good thing I'll say about the crater is that it does feel like it fits into a world where a nuclear war took place some 200 years ago. Giant holes in the ground where death is all but certain litter the landscape. Puddles of water that probably should be irradiated, and destroyed buildings with no roof. That's where the good ends though. There are these little beetle things that are sometimes annoying to fight. Not because they're tough, they're not. They take a few hits to die and that's it. But because hit detection sucks. I spent several more minutes than I would have liked exploring the area, killing bugs, collecting items, and trying to figure out where my objective was, until I found the entrance to the crater lower level. Once again, I was a little impressed with the overall feeling of the area. It really did seem like this crater was a breeding ground for all sorts of irradiated creatures. A little ways into the crater, I realized I had a torch that was stupid effective against the beetles and red scorpions. And if you're wondering how radiation works, it just does damage over time. Sorta like Fallout 4, but sorta not at all, really. After pushing my way through all the creatures, I entered the crater pit, where not only did the mayor surprise nobody by being the bad guy, he somehow made it down there before I did. The mayor, Richard, is the second boss in this game, and it was here I died for the first time. His unique offensive ability is that he throws explosives that detonate after a few seconds and do a large amount of damage. He's one of those bosses that has a high attack power but low health. He exploded, as one does, and his death set off a chain reaction that triggered the collapse of the entire crater. You have to escape before the cave collapses all around you. I put an exclamation point there, but it really doesn't deserve it. You just have to run back to town. There's no timer or anything. Sometimes the screen shakes, rocks fall, and there are raiders now. Nothing crazy. Back in town, the raider matron had her goon's light armpit on fire. Then he died. The raiders have begun destroying the town. And guess what? You have to clear them all out before you can do anything. 3 areas, 60 plus raiders to kill, same shit as the warehouse. I bought a sledgehammer from Jesse before making my way into the other areas. It's better than the torch, but it doesn't make this any more interesting. Everything I've said about combat applies here. There's nothing fun about it. There are flame raiders that explode when they die, so ranged attacks are advisable, but they're basically the same thing as the irradiated rat scorpions. If anything, this is worse. I spent more time looking for raiders than I did killing them. Few things in life are more annoying than seeing one raider remains and having no idea where it could possibly be. I spent a solid 10 minutes looking for the last raider before I found it. The doctor was sort of impressed, and guess what? I get to defeat more raiders. Jesse told me that they're all camped out at the old mill at the edge of town. He handed me a key to get through the secret exit in the warehouse. I upgraded my armor and went to take on more raiders. They're tougher and do more damage than the ones I fought a few minutes ago. And there are mines on the ground that are annoying and can't be destroyed. Oh, and I swapped out the sledgehammer for a cleaver who cares? I have a cleaver now. Speaking of now, it's a good time to point out something about this run. There have been times where challenges have been put on hold for a few months to allow me to regain my sanity, but this one is different. I started it way back in the long ago, in September of 2019, and came back to it in July of 2020. So, in the interest of keeping my brain on the inside of my head and not all over the wall, I'm gonna quickly skim through the rest of what I did in September. I killed more raiders in what I can only assume was the lumber yard. There you go, you're caught up. Jesse let me know that I had to fumble with the machinery if I wanted to reach the raider matron, and I entered the mill storage area ready to kick some ass and cry for being back in this nightmare of a game. The first thing I did was check the controls to make sure I knew what I was doing. Apparently there's a special move that didn't work for me once ever. I also messed with the graphics to make it look better again. The sledgehammer is fairly solid against most of these clowns. It takes them down in a few hits, assuming you actually connect with their body and they don't back away as you swing. After leveling up again and dumping the points into the special attack just to see if it did anything, I pressed deeper into the mill while wandering around with no real idea of where to go. That's a common theme with this game, being lost. If you're close to the objective, a yellow cross will flash on the minimap. But it could really do with a Titanfall 2 system, where you can always see where you're supposed to go, if only so you don't have to spend more time playing this game than you already have to. Tougher foes were in the next room, as well as a series of locked doors. The dual-wielding maniacs did solid damage against me. I ran through the Electro Dome, died to the Shocker, realized I hadn't saved since the last time I saved due to a limited number of save slots, and was more lost than ever. It seemed the door I was supposed to go through was locked, and my mind wasn't powerful enough to figure out what to do. You might have noticed that there are progress saving machines every 11 inches. This is because the developers knew you'd need to save often. You wouldn't want to play this game for more than a few minutes at a time. This would be a great mobile game in that regard. God, imagine if the first console port of a Fallout game to a phone was fucking Brotherhood of Steel. At some point while I was inside, I nuked a reactor, which unlocked the path to the Raider Mother. Went back outside to barter with Jesse, which was where I learned I had more actual armor that I hadn't been using for some reason. Most likely my own ineptitude. Before an eternity had passed, I found myself in the lair of the lady who was conversating with what appeared to be a super mutant. Then he left, and I was left with her. For the leader of a raider group, she was awfully forthcoming with information I was after. Then I had to kill her. I used what's commonly referred to in the Fallout Brotherhood of Steel community as the Wombo Combo, to annihilate her with one part toxic gas grenades and another part standing in place with a submachine gun and pressing the fire button while spamming the stim-pack button until she died. Back in town, my ignorance got the better of me when I hoped that this would be the end of the game. Oh no, not even close. I met up with some sort of lonesome wanderer to whom I returned a Vault 13 flask I'd found. A smart man would have put 1 and 2 together to make 2 and realized that he was the Vault Dweller from the original Fallout, or he's supposed to be. He learned me about a city of ghouls called Los. Who cares? I had a short seizure, watched the giant monster man instill terror in lesser beings, and began asking around town about a group of Brotherhood Paladins. The first guy was Harold, likely the same Harold living in eternal anguish in Fallout 3. Apparently he slipped Ruby, the town whore, a scab, if you know what I mean. Something of his detached while he was inside her. That must have been an interesting experience, one I'd like to experience for myself one day. I kept asking around, sold some items to a ghoul to buy a pair of electro gloves, and entered the arena to score some easy caps. You get 100, then 200, then 300, etc., whatever. But it was more trouble than it was worth, so I headed to the docks, via the East Bridge, to continue my search for the Paladins. Here, ghouls are introduced as an enemy, and they're not much different from raiders, aside from a different appearance, different death sounds, different weapons, and attacking en masse. The power fists could dispatch of them in 2 to 3 punches, so they were a non-issue for the most part. I got lost again trying to figure out where to go. You're supposed to jump on pipes to traverse to other parts of the map. Things got harder when the big green ghouls appeared closer to the docks. Maybe they're supposed to be glowing ones. Maybe not. I really don't care. They, along with the other ghouls in this area, tested my resolve like no other group of enemies did. After saving the points of the last 2 level ups, I could finally summon a loyal animal companion to fight by my side. The one and only Dogmeat joined the party, and that was a lie. He was nowhere to be seen. This game sucks. Once I reached yet another save post, the dog appeared. He can die over and over again, but will respawn when you pass by a save point. More minutes of fighting later, and after entering an area filled with more ghouls, I died, lost some progress, decided to ignore most of the enemies in my way. Entered what I thought was the right area. It wasn't, so I kept fighting as best I could, using the majority of my stim packs in the process. In yet another new area, I found the cousin of the ghoul merchant from earlier, sold a few weapons I didn't need, and made an important decision. The only way I'd get through this was with either about 15,000 caps worth of stim packs or a lot of alcohol. And the last time I drank a lot, I got into a shouting match with my air conditioner, so that was out of the question. The audio of that shouting match is in the Mitten Squad Discord server's Good Noodle board, if you want to hear it. With hundreds of stim packs in my pocket, I continued my journey in hell by freeing groups of prisoners who were stuck in hell with me. Well, I freed like half of them. I lost interest in their well-being when I couldn't find the rest of the keys to the gates. Then, it happened. I found Professor Rhombus, the king of shapes, being tortured by the ghoul man, who I then had to kill. I used the same tactic on the equally as attractive woman I faced a little while ago. Stand in place with thousands of bullets until he died. Then, I had to escort Rhombus to where he hid the key to the secret entrance to something. And, you're not gonna believe this, Brotherhood of Steel actually managed to do something better than other games. Rhombus ran just as fast as I did. It was amazing. Then a suicide ghoul exploded him. He got back up and was just fine. Then it got me real good, which ended my life, causing me to have to do the entire escort thing again, because I hadn't saved recently. With the key in my possession, I entered the Vault Tech warehouse storage in search of the secret vault. More ghouls and shit were inside, nothing particularly noteworthy to be honest. I got a monster ripper though, that was kinda cool. A two-handed ripper seemed like a pretty solid Fallout weapon. I could see it being in other games in the future. There were also some super mutants inside, which were negated by the monster ripper. It wasn't anything crazy or interesting or fun. However, there was another boss fight, in the form of a series of automated turrets that erupted from the ground like possessed jack-o'-lanterns to beat me up with their bullets. Luckily for me, I still had several hundred stim packs, so there wasn't any reason to die. Then came Chapter 3. That's right. We're only 2/3 of the way through this. Sort of. You'll see what I mean later. My task inside the vault was to learn of the mutant leader's plans. I don't even know what to say about this. If you find radioactive fire hose urination funny, you'll like this game. A horde of spider things were lurking inside, and I'll say maybe one more good thing about this game. It sets the scene of super mutants having taken over a vault pretty well. There's blood and stuff, and I'm unhappy. It's a great time. But just when you think the game can't get any worse, it does. There are puzzles, very, very light puzzle elements, like you have to move these shelves out of the way using a console. Eventually I got the pathways cleared, rampaged through a vault corridor filled with more mutants, played as a little scooter, died as a Wally, and found Addis, the leader of the mutants, king of the vault, the lion in a field of hamsters or something. He was the toughest boss so far. I actually had to put some effort into beating him, but I still had several hundred stim packs. Even if he was an immortal god from another dimension, I could have beaten him with the power of time and American ingenuity. At long last, Addis fell before me. I beat the final boss, and the game is over. No, it's not. This does not end. The torment is forever. He cut off my arm, dropped me in a hole. Some whore woke me up from my attempted dying. I followed her through the vault ruins on the way to the gardens, and realized something else I like about this game. The vault really does feel massive, like it could be home to thousands of people. I got a replacement arm that looked just like my old one, couldn't be a robotic arm, that would have required effort, and was off to escort a vault technician through a robot-infested sub-basement. Guess what? This, surprisingly, was actually horrible. The techno-loser can't defend himself, there are robots everywhere, you've gotta go through these side passages to deactivate laser barriers, leaving him standing there while defenseless the entire time. The one good thing is that if he dies, another takes his place, but then you have to run all the way back to the start of the level to pick him up, then escort him back through the rest of the level. He activates the power and sends you to connect 2 circuit breakers. More robots and such, not really anything difficult or exciting. But then, it gets worse. Worse than ever. Worse than anything in this game so far. There are these stupid fucking lasers blocking a bunch of different paths, along with consoles used to turn certain lasers on and off. For example, and I'm just making up this example, console 1 turns on laser 2 and 3, but turns off laser 4. Then console 2 turns on laser 5, but turns off 2. It's more strategic shit that someone with a functioning brain could probably figure out. But the thing is, my air conditioner was still unusable. It was like 94 degrees outside, and the window unit I was given was in another room, because it was missing a piece, so I had to seal the gap with cardboard and tape. I was in no mood for anything that required effort on my part. That being said, I got through it with some trial and error. The vents were opened, allowing the vault dwellers to escape. There was another boss fight against these disgustingly inaccurate nightkin that pushed my poor little iMac to its limits, and I assumed the end was near. The dwellers could escape, as could I. Again, no. I need a key card to progress. And where is that card? Why, it's back in the vault ruins. I wandered through back when I was missing an arm, of course. What's down there? Death Claws, which were the strongest and most annoying non-boss enemy in the game up to that point. And once more, I got lost. I had no idea where to go or what to do. The Death Claws kept respawning and took a fuck ton of time and effort to kill. Hopelessly lost, sweating profusely, and tired of this game, I called it quits. Even without a challenge, this game was so bad that it broke me. Not only could I not beat Fallout Brotherhood of Steel without wanting to die, I couldn't even beat it at all. And I've never been more satisfied with failure in my life. If you enjoyed the video or learned anything, leave a like. Leave a dislike if you didn't enjoy the video or didn't learn anything. Thanks to the champion tier supporters as well as other channel members for making videos like this one possible. Join the Mitten Squad Discord server through a link in the video description. Follow me on Twitter at Mitten Squad. Have a wonderful day.